Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Riverfront Park's last night of Ghost Stories for this year. In our wonderful redone pavilion, our great theater. I'm glad they let us christen the indoor theater here. Of course, there's an outdoor theater there as well. So keep your eyes peeled for this summer, Spokane Stories Under the Stars. We will come back to annoy you during the month of, I forget which month they said, maybe July.
Will it be outside?
It will be.
Under the stars?
Yeah. It all works together.
It won't rain.
So this was, I promise it won't rain. So this was the U.S. Pavilion for our country's exhibit for the 1974 World's Fair held here in Spokane. And it's haunted, at least according to the officers of the park rangers here, who have seen some ghosts even in the new building here, probably dating from olden times. So our month of ghost stories has been a bit upsetting, a little weird, and so we're going to talk about haunted bars and pubs tonight, later on. I'm your host in Spokane's resident ghostologist and chief weirdo, Chet Caskey. To my right is PPBX's public radio storyteller, the lovely and very exotic Mary Walker. To my left is the talented Barbara Hertz, who I actually met wandering in a cemetery in Ontario, California some years ago. Our favorite ghost hunters will be here tonight to talk about some more ghost hunting equipment and what they've come up with today. The East Washington Paranormal Group. Thanks especially to our living hostesses, Jill Reeves and Allison Skook, supervisors of the Spokane Parks and Recreation Department. Over in this corner is my partner in weirdness and life, Kathy Caskey. She's the author of Ghost Books of Spokane to sell. For the record, I will be talking about ghost stories of Spokane at Auntie's Bookstore and Second Look Bookstore on South Hill this Halloween night.
Will you be giving out candy?
Yes, I will. If I have time to prepare it. And so, you newcomers will notice our ghost lights here. It's time to turn off the ghost lights and shoo the ghosts out to the wind while the living take over this theater for the next hour and a half. So shoo on out of here, ghosts. We turn first tonight to the neighborhood of Hilliard. How many of you are here from Hilliard? That's two. Well, that means we can lie to you with impunity then. Which some say is the most haunted district of our city. And Mary, what do you say, dear?
I say it's weird. It's spooky. And I think it is the most haunted neighborhood in Spokane. And let's start off the Hilliard weirdness with the most haunted building in the neighborhood. That's the Market Street Antique Store. Susan Hess has been the proprietor for over 15 years, and in fact, part of the building is dedicated to the Hilliard Spirituality Center, where Susan hosts seances, meetings with psychic mediums, and Reiki sessions. The antique store itself has been around for many years. Built in 1903, the building served for many years as Hilliard's newspaper office for the Inland Empire News and the North Side Post. But its ghostly history really dates from the 1950s. There are many ghost stories about the Market Street Antique Building. The child ghosts of the second floor, the chair ghost room in the basement, the Victorian lady ghost, the railroader ghost. But the most famous ghost in all of Hilliard is the antique store Ghost of Bessie. After organizing and running the antique shop for 13 years, one morning, Susan discovered a new picture that had been mysteriously placed leaning against the checkout counter sometime in between the time she locked up and turned on the burglar alarm the night before and the time that she opened up for business the next morning. It has always been a total, more than that, an impossible mystery where the picture came from. It seemed to be an ancient large oval photograph of a woman, but the image was smeared as if someone had rubbed black oil all over the image or scrubbed the picture almost away. On the back of the photograph was penciled, "From Grandma and the Martin Girls to Bessie, April 11th, 1934. It's unclear whether the ghost photo is of Bessie herself or is an image that was given to Bessie by her female relatives. But ghost photo it is. Thinking a nearly unrecognizable and destroyed photograph was of little value, Susan placed the thing in her office. Then, as the weeks passed, the unexpected and the unimaginable began to occur. The image of Bessie's ghost began gradually to clear until the image of the young woman we see today emerged with sharply defined features. Indeed, the image has cleared further every month since it first appeared over 2 years ago. We are grateful for Susan for lending us the picture for tonight's events. But you can see the picture of the ghost Bessie up front and personal any day at Susan's shop in Hilliard.
The city of Hilliard, and subsequently the Hilliard neighborhood of Spokane in 1924, was an unruly and notorious place of bars and prostitutes, both before and after Prohibition in Washington. During the Prohibition era, illegal drinking establishments were well entrenched in Hilliard. Hilliard was also a place where one could go catch the Great Northern Booze Special train to Troy, Montana, where alcohol was still legal until the 18th Amendment to the United States Constitution was ratified in 1920. As soon as the train cleared Prohibition territory, the bar in the club car was open for business. The train was an early example of a cruise to nowhere. As to the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, sheriffs in office during Prohibition, there was usually no problem in Hilliard due to the enterprising lawmen's ownership of at least part of many operations. During Prohibition, some drinking establishments in Hilliard had escape and delivery tunnels leading from their basements, the remnants of which can still be seen in some of the buildings today. But the tunnels never came into play.
Spokane Superior Court Judge George Shield once announced from his courtroom, 3 things hold true in Hilliard. Number 1, everybody drinks. Number 2, everybody fights. And number 3, everybody carries a weapon. Well, perhaps not everybody drank alcohol. Mid-20th century Hilliard was known for its bars. In 1959, there were 19 bars in Little Hilliard. It was quite a nightclub and bar district.
The Big Sky Tavern on Market Street is a Hilliard institution, but also known as a ghost venue. Inside the deceptively plain-looking exterior is a large and very friendly, well-ordered bar area and a huge backyard beer garden, complete with a small garden pool and fire rings for fall and winter. Begun as a bar by Harvey Schuyler 40 years ago, the Big Sky Tavern regulars are a friendly and welcoming bunch. It's hard not to love the place, but it was a venerable ghost history. Servers have reported footsteps heard overhead when in the basement, and the place is otherwise empty. unnerving sounds late at night when all of the customers have left. Part of the paranormal problem may well be to the door that in the large cooler used by the bar to, of course, keep things cool. A sign on the door warns morgue. And by tradition, other things indeed have been cooled behind that door. According to everyone, the door to the cooler was purchased from the Spokane County coroner some years ago.
The Northern Rail Pub in Hilliard is an older, picturesque bar on North Market Street with an extensive beer garden out back. It's adjacent to the old haunted Masonic temple there. And according to the servers at the Northern Rail, the pub is certainly haunted. One server told me that one night he lived far away, and when they had a late night crowd at the Northern Rail, he decided to just spend the night in the bar. He said by the time the morning came, he was completely nonplussed. He was upset. He was visited by ghosts in the evening, and that he would never, never, ever do that again. The old Hilliard Library on Olympic Avenue was transformed not too many years ago into a library sports bar. There's a nauseatingly unpleasant paranormal presence in the basement of the bar, not only verified by the owner, Dwayne Alexander, but his original construction crew also, and a librarian on the 4th floor of the library, just ahead of us and to your left right here. When Dwayne Alexander told me about 6 years ago that there was a ghost present in the basement of the old library, I said, urban myth. Sure, Dwayne. And then when I was doing some research for my book on Hilliard on the 4th floor of the new library here, the older librarian came out and said, "Oh, you're interested in Hilliard, huh?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm interested." And then I thought, I'm going to catch Dwayne right now. And I said, because she told me that she was the librarian there for many years in the old Hilliard Library. And I said, well, you've never sensed a ghost there in the Hilliard Library, have you? And she says, well, just one. The one in the basement that causes everyone to get sick to their stomach and nauseated, sort of. On the very, very dark side, there's a Sportsman Cafe and Lounge on North Market Street. It's a good restaurant and kind of a fun bar too, but it's associated with one of Hilliard's 3 serial killers. On July 2, 2006, at about 5 in the afternoon, a 73-year-old man was last seen walking out of the Sportsman Cafe and was never seen again, live or dead. Years later, a serial killer, John Wayne Thompson, confessed to abducting the 73-year-old man and killing him and burying him at an unknown site, but just to taunt his family and friends in Hilliard. Thompson went to his grave. They do things a little different in Oregon than we do here, without ever revealing where he had buried or disposed of the body of the poor man, just to torment the family.
The special K Tavern and Eatery on North Market Street in Hilliard has been around since about 1964. And before that, old-timers remember it was called Moe's Place. A bartender named Larry from Moe's Place stayed on at the Classic Roadhouse when it changed hands, and he worked there until he died on the job, of course. Special K Tavern and Eatery is famous for 2 things: its delicious bacon cheeseburgers and the ghost Larry, who refused to move on when the physical body of Larry collapsed, died, and was carried out of the place. Everyone who is a regular at Special K's knows the ghost Larry. Larry's not the most peaceful ghost. When Larry seems unhappy unhappy or frustrated, people sitting at the bar will see the front line of all the bottles fronting the shelves behind the bar knocked off the shelf by an unseen force, one by one, from left to right, all along the wall. When the regulars are there, they sometimes don't even look up when this happens. There are also reports of a ghost dog roaming through the place.
You know, in Hilliard, Ruby's at the Red Dragon restaurant is actually my favorite ghost bar. And I've eaten Chinese food and had cocktails with friends there on numerous occasions. The manager, Will Burris, doesn't deny the place is laden with ghosts, but he claims, oh, there's a couple of ghosts in the basement, but they're kind ghosts. Will's not telling the complete story. One of the ghosts is said to be the name Charles for years and years, and no one knows exactly why the ghost is named Charles. When floorboards were raised in the restaurant's restrooms in 1978, it released a poltergeist, a type of dark spirited ghost that gets physical with living humans, can slap them, can push them downstairs, as a matter of fact. And this poltergeist knocked over ladders. He took 5-gallon paints of 5-gallon containers of paint, and the workers would see it gravitate off the floor and then thrown against the wall. And the workers experienced tools from their toolbox being levitated out of the toolbox and then hurled at them. They got those floorboards back. Too sweet. Into the ground. Spokane's psychic medium, or one of the more famous ones, Dr. Candace Campbell, she's done an examination of the bar and the restaurant there, and detected, when she was there, only grandmother spirits, what she called grandmother spirits, and the word lucky was telepath to her. Lucky, lucky. Well, lucky for some, supposedly. It's fabulous food. It's inexpensive food. But several intuitives of the greater metropolitan Spokane and Idaho community have felt that right there in Hilliard, right off of Market Street on Diamond, where the Red Dragon is the location of a vortex, a spiritual vortex that is swirling around Hilliard and centered at the Red Dragon. And on June 14, 2018, that's last year, I was invited, and my wife Kathy was invited as well, to a group of intuitives that were meeting in the garden of the Red Dragon around back, shaman from the Idaho Spokane area, a fairly large group of them, and they were trying to, with their various incantations and drummings and spiritual exercises as a group, trying to dispel the dark vortex. Whether they did or not remains to be seen. But it's probably safe to have cocktails there.
Yeah, probably. Well, I need to ask really quickly, though. Is anybody from the Riff here? I thought I saw someone come in from the Riff Tavern. No? Okay. I was expecting that. Anyway, but Mount St. Michael, aren't we just hitting the fringes of ghosts in the Hilliard neighborhood if we don't talk about the Mount St. Michael?
About Mount St. Michael?
Mount St. Michael.
I was afraid somebody would mention Mount St. Michael.
Yeah.
Mount St. Michael towers over Hilliard with the old seminary and church looking down upon the neighborhood and previously the city. And some people consider it a Mount Olympus of ghosts. A Mount Olympus of ghosts. Strange thing about that Mount St. Michael. And it really came to my attention in a dramatic fashion in 2009. That was over 10 years ago. I was leading these little historic tours. We had a few little ghost stories in downtown Spokane, a few blocks from here, over by the Montvale Hotel. It was 10 o'clock at night. And I was finishing up a tour. Everybody from the tour had left. But an old woman, an old crone, if you will, came up to me. I'm not even sure she was a part of the tour I just conducted. And she came over to me, close to me, and she shouted,
Young man! Say, young man, stop!
She was so old she called me young man.
Are you the one who takes the tours up to Mount St. Michael?
Well, yes, ma'am. I've taken 2 tours to St. Michael to look at the church up there.
Never, never should you ever go up to Mount St. Michael without protection.
Well, you know, I grew up in New Orleans, and when the old woman said protection, you know, I'm thinking, a gun? A knife? What are you talking about? And then she produced an ancient coin purse and presented me with a medallion.
Never, ever go up to St. Michael without this sacred medal with you. I pray for your soul.
Well, that was weird. You know, I've been a lawyer over 40 years, recovering in Spokane these last 15 years in retirement. But you know, I don't see ghosts necessarily behind every bush. But when that old woman gave me this medallion, I thought, well, why take a chance? So I put it on this chain, and this medallion is the very medallion that the old woman gave me, and I have kept it for protection, as she said, ever since. How many of you said you are from Hilliard? Now there's less. Well, I thought we would be talking about Mount St. Michael tonight. So what we have decided to do, it took me a while to do this. I researched and discovered the exact medallion in southern Italy that the old woman had given me. And then I convinced an old Roman Catholic priest to bless them for spiritual safety. And what we have before we go any further about Hilliard and Mount St. Michael, what we have for you tonight is a sacred medal. The same sacred medal blessed by the same as blessed by the old hag many years ago. Ghost hunters, can you help us pass these out? These are unusual collection plates. Don't put any money in it. Take a medallion out. That's how the spirit world works.
But you know, there are many ghost stories about Mount St. Michael dominating the view of Hilliard. To the northeast, at virtually every point in the community, is the gigantic Gothic hilltop castle-like Mount St. Michael Church and Seminary, with 2 cemeteries, the old Jesuit Cemetery and the much newer Holy Rosary Cemetery. If you want a really creepy experience, visit the old Jesuit Cemetery on All Souls Day on November 1st at night. The dead Jesuits are still on the mountain in their graves, but the living Jesuits are gone. They were replaced by members of the Tridentine Latin Rite Catholic Church and the Congregation of Mary Immaculate Queen in 1977. In that year, this Tridentine Latin Rite Catholic Church was to become the worldwide headquarters of this breakaway branch of the Roman Catholic Church and caused quite a spiritual stir in Spokane. This new religious branch was born out of a controversy in 1958 when the Vatican, through some kind of mix-up, actually announced the election of two separate bishops as the new pope. The first, on October 26th, was Cardinal Giuseppe Siri, was announced as the new Pope Gregory XVII. And then black smoke appeared from the Sistine Chapel, and 2 days later, on October 28th, the second announcement came that Archbishop Angelo Roccoli was declared Pope John the 23rd. That was upsetting. What had happened? The church wasn't talking. Had the Pope Gregory XVII been deposed? This was upsetting to many Catholics. This was very upsetting. In fact, a substantial part of the Roman Catholic Church broke away from Rome and started a separate church, declaring that Pope Gregory XVII was the rightful pope. And when he had been unelected, there was no longer any pope to